Want to know how to become a YouTube star? Fat Dun always lets Jimmy tell the story first before making a clever comment. This time, as soon as Jimmy finishes sharing his romantic tales, Fat Dun is called away by Yu Jing, leaving Jimmy to wait for a chance to contact. No matter how he dials, he can't reach out. Brother Wen grows impatient. Jimmy signals to wait while dialing. But all these efforts ultimately prove to be futile, and Brother Wen's emotions finally erupt completely. Jimmy struggles hard to keep the situation under control and subsequently returns to the cell. DP wants to finish their talk, but Fat Dun isn't back. Yu Jing reminds him Fat Dun waits in the lumber room. When Jimmy arrives, he finds Fat Dun carving wood. The carved bird in the table is a piece meant to be sent home. Jimmy curiously asks what it's for. Fat Dun changes the subject, sensing Jimmy upset someone. Jimmy lies, as Yu Jing claims Fat Dun broke the law. A murderer walks in, and Jimmy's brief defense offends Yu Jing. As their discussion deepens, it's time for the big Q/26A, and Fat Dun is especially curious about how many young women Jimmy has been with. Jimmy's dating history surprisingly tallies up to 80, which feels like a joke. These chats turned women into temporary partners, hitting Fat Dun hard. He liked talking to just one, but she was rude. Jimmy is curious about the reason behind it, and probes further, while Fat Dun, all of a sudden cautious, sets aside his guard and begins to recount, slowly, the story of that day. At the end, Fat Dun kissed her, but the girl was so rude, she slapped him and unleashed a torrent of insults, so she had to use gasoline to knock her out, and brought her to a hidden spot, where she felt like she was floating in the starry sky. Quite an unusual. When she came to, she realized both she and the girl were stripped of their clothes. Fat Dun was stunned, not knowing what he had done. To his surprise, when the girl woke up, she tried to run away. He dragged her to a tree and used the belt to tie her up, plus he found a stick. Now he just needed to rotate the stick, and the belt would get tighter until the girl's voice vanished into thin air. Jimmy finally felt his recent efforts went in vain, closer to the truth. His father sensed his peril. But he felt helpless. If it weren't for that incident, his family should have been living in harmony. Now, the man focuses on solving the case, using law, not power, to punish Fat Dun for his dead child. After analyzing the route, they pinpointed a gas station, but the clerk there claimed he was local, had been here 6 months. They chatted about cars, and the clerk mentioned, if you need parts, visit the town's only store. Feeling lucky, they decided to try it. The old man at the desk knitted a sweater, recognizing Fat Dun, but not well. Fat Dun often came here to hit on nearby girls, which made many avoid the place. The old man chased him off and figured he had some issues since Fat Dun had even pursued his daughter. Hearing this, they wanted to meet his daughter, but she'd return later. With storekeeper's approval, they decided to wait. After a few hours, the old man's daughter met with them. She reminisced about the encounters and Fat Dun's borderline advance. Fat Dun often says blunt things, mostly off-putting, in gifts, earrings, necklaces, or heels. The agents asked if she still had any of those gifts, but she admitted that she had sold them all previously. However, she remembered there was one item she hadn't sold yet, the bike Fat Dun had given her. They went to the storage to check it out. Upon seeing the bike, she instantly thought of the creepy Fat Dun. This bike was a gift from her father. She remembered how happy her daughter was when she received it. But her daughter only lived for a little over 5,000 days before being cruelly killed. Now they had the strongest evidence that could definitely seal the case. The lawyer deemed the evidence insufficient after reviewing. They were furious, insisting it was solid proof. The lawyer explained that it had been years, and extracting fingerprints was obviously impossible, making it hard to secure a conviction. Today, Yu Jing's attitude changed drastically. He discovered Jimmy's undercover identity sometime. He once used every underhanded trick for 10 grand, but now wants Jimmy to forget the past. The two thought they could win together and manage to survive, but his hatred for Jimmy had faded, and he no longer cared about threats. As lights out approached, the boss found Jimmy and spun him a tale of betrayal, telling him to take care of himself when he left. At this point, Fat Dun had finished carving his wooden bird. Jimmy just spotted him and noticed the hand-drawn map on the tape. He guessed it was the burial site swiftly. To confirm, he asked Fat Dun why there were 21 wooden carvings. Rolling the map, Fat Dun replied, "These are all gifts for his brother. Hell paint the wooden birds black to guard the 21 souls." As he looked up, Jimmy confirmed his earlier thought, but he didn't want to harm Fat Dun. He hoped Fat Dun would confess and lighten his sentence. However, what Fat Dun said next. Proof was provided that Fat Dun was not the individual involved in the incident, yet surprisingly, just the following day, Fat Dun was released in the usual manner, without having suffered any repercussions. But Jimmy's cell door didn't open until minutes later. Outside, guards had been waiting, heavily identified. He couldn't let Jimmy harm Fat Dun again. The guard seized Jimmy, ignored his explanations, and locked him in solitary. Jimmy pleaded for a pen, ignored by all. He needed to recall the map, his only hope for escape. Suddenly, a thought from Fat Dun flashed through his mind, causing him to bite down hard on his finger. Sketching map details on the wall, Fat Dun's letter to his brother was being packed up. After that, utterly exhausted, Jimmy was taken out by guards when the solitary door opened. The doctor head contacted returned. He apologized to Jimmy for neglecting him. The doctor who detained him is under investigation. At this point, Jimmy forgot his hatred. He badly needed a pen and drew the map on the desk, just what the police needed.